Welcome, everyone. My name is David Bowders, and I'm here today with Motion Industries VP of Strategic Pricing, E-commerce, and Sales Excellence, James Howe. Welcome, James.
Thanks, David. Glad to be here.
So we're here today to talk about the sales transformation at Motion Industries, and I know sales is obviously one of the most important functions at Motion. Can you talk a little bit about why you were so interested in sales transformation and what it meant to Motion?
Well, first, our sales force is our largest investment at Motion. It's our highest expense per month, and it's the biggest opportunity for us to improve our growth rate and our profitability as a company. It's also, we had a lot of random acts of excellence in our sales team, but didn't have really a uniform customer-centric strategy for making sure that we deliver value on a consistent basis to our customers. So, really important goal for us, and we're well on our way.
So we think about the sales teams, and for a lot of companies, this is really the lead part of a customer's experience is the sellers that they interact with. And I know Motion has several thousand salespeople. So why was it so difficult to get the type of consistency that you were looking for historically?
Motion's had a 75-year-old model where we basically have had a branch-centric sales leadership plan. And every sales team and every branch had a little bit of a different flavor of the kind of value proposition we're delivering to our customers. So it's a very difficult change management task when you're dealing with several thousand sellers and several hundred leaders that all have their own concepts of sales management.
So when you think about the idea of improving consistency, how important is the sales process in that journey?
Well, it's really important. And we didn't have a defined sales process. And that really is the starting point for any kind of CRM implementation or any kind of a customer value proposition that's consistent across the team. So the sales, that was one of our first endeavors, and we started with the customer.
Yeah. And I remember we did quite a bit of buyer research to basically understand who are the buyer personas that our sellers are serving and what is the process that they go through in order to choose vendors, to select material, to make sure that we're getting the right products in the right places at the right times. Once that buyer mapping is done, that plays a big part, doesn't it, in trying to set up the seller?
It sure does. The goal of the sales force is to deliver value to the customer. And if you don't understand what the customer is looking to receive and their own challenges, then your sales force is going to miss the mark. So it all starts with the customer. And
I think a lot of companies, they want more from their sales forces, but they become very seller-centric. They start asking their sellers, what do we need to do better to get better outcomes with our customers, instead of going straight to the customer and identifying, what are the real processes that they go through on a daily basis, and how do we help them to buy more from us? I always say one of the ironies is that sellers sell too little when sellers sell too much. And that means they're too focused on selling and not focused enough on helping their buyers buy. So when we started to dig in at Motion, what did we discover that was surprising about what we needed to do differently in order to serve our customers?
Well, I think that some of the surprise was really positive. We found out that our customers valued a lot of what we did, a lot more than we realized. And some of the things that we weren't talking about in our sales conversations were things that our customers valued extremely highly. Our proposition of doing cost savings and absolutely delivering plant level value is highly, highly valued by our customers. And also interruption is one thing that we found out was a huge fear of our customers. And I don't think we talked enough about our ability to solidify that supply chain and really deliver a safety and a certainty to our customers in the MRO space. So we really started having better conversations, especially in our corporate accounts team, which is where we started. And they're already our really high-powered, high-level sellers. So it was well received, and I think that our customers are receiving a better experience in our sales calls and also better value from our teams in the field.
So if we think about the sales process as being buyer-centric and helping our sellers to really understand how to serve the buyer to help them buy more from us, once we've started to formalize that sales process, it starts to raise the question of who will be the best individuals to execute that process. So as we think about that, there's really talent selection, talent development, and how do we coach people? Maybe talk a little bit about each of those. What is the big insight that comes from talent selection?
Well, it was really insightful to look at the data of who was succeeding within Motion and succeeding for our customers, and combine that with the personality profiles and the traits that they had as far as sales skills. And what we did was we developed a profile of what do our winners really look like, and that top quartile of every sales force is really a unique group that delivers value, and they have some of that intangible. How do they just get it done factor? So we profiled those people, used data, and then we started to look at where do we have gaps overall in our sales force and in individual personas on our team. So it was really insightful. And if we can just get those middle the middle group of people in the bottom quartile all up to that top quartile, the gaps are huge in delivering value for our customers and for Motion. So really insightful internal view of where are we hitting the mark and where are we missing it, and then what do our customers value. And that's kind of where it all started. And we've been on this for almost 2 years now, going through and making sure that when we do implement our systems and our CRM programs, that we're going to hit the mark, and we're just making it easier for our sales teams to deliver the value that they need to deliver, rather than imposing a CRM on a sales team and trying to start from the backside. We started from the customer and worked our way back.
Yeah, I think a lot of companies are disappointed in their adoption of different technologies because they haven't done the proper foundation work around sales process. And when we talk about talent analytics, this is what I call the money ball of sales. How do we identify the traits that we need to look for inbound, as we have a lot of our sellers starting to retire, and we're looking at a new generation of sellers? How do we make sure that the right sellers with the right traits are coming into the pipeline? You can think of it as almost an engineered system. That way we control the inputs so that we can have more standardization of the production process. How do we create a great salesperson? So when we look out at a lot of distributors out there in the marketplace, when we ask them, how do you select talent? The response we often get is kind of funny. And it's basically, our managers hire people like themselves, and we throw car keys and keyboards at them and say, go get them, Tiger. So we know that doesn't work in any other part of the economy, where you just randomly pull people in off the street and start, trying to get them to accomplish something important. And talent analytics can really help to make sure that we get the right people with the right traits into the pipeline. The next piece of it, as we said, is how do we start to really train them to be successful at executing the sales process that we define? Can you talk a little bit about where training was with Motion historically and where you see it going as you go through the sales transformation?
Well, historically, Motion had training where we'd bring people into a classroom. We'd give them a big download, and then they would forget it, typically, 30 to 60 days later. So that was where we came from. We had a lot of product training because there's a lot of application-specific engineered products that we need to learn how to promote and sell. But we didn't have a lot of customer engagement training. How do we actually have the right conversations at the right time? And how do we deliver value in each of those meetings with our customers? So we changed both what we were training and how we were training. We moved to an app-based, mobile device-based training that's really drip training. It's 3 to 4 minute videos, and they interact, and the leaders and coaches interact with their teams in a collaborative fashion in the training. And it's a consistent piece of the workflow. It's not just a go get a download and then every so often and then go back and get another download and forget it. It's part of the ethos of our sales team. And that's really what modern technology and mobile devices and a new theory on training of making sure that it's consistently reinforced it's just a much better application of our time, and keeps our sellers also engaged in their territories a lot more frequently and engaged with their leaders, because it's a collaborative training exercise. And we've just had great feedback from it. It isn't seen as a waste of time anymore. It's seen as, hey, this is something that I thought I knew everything to know about sales, but I'm learning something new every single week. And we're practicing it in the field, and we're seeing the difference with the way our customers are receiving us. We're having customer-centric. It's a buyer-centric training. And so our conversations are about our customers. It's not about us. We're not coming in, we're not doing the show up and throw up about all the products we have or our company. We're not starting with who we are and what we do. We're starting with the customer, what they're looking to achieve, and how can we help them win. So it's been a great change for our sales team and a good investment in our biggest resource we have, which is our talent, our people.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they think the lunch and learn model of sales training is still relevant, and you just think about all the challenges. A typical distribution sales rep may be selling thousands of different products from hundreds of different vendors. And the idea that they're going to have lunch and learns with each of their vendors and retain any of that is just preposterous. And everybody's heard of the learning curve, but we need to remind people about this thing called the forgetting curve. The forgetting curve says within 30 days, without retentive exercise, we forget about 90% of what we learn. You think about the millions of hours being spent across distribution, what I call pre-forgetting. It's just insane that people would take sellers out of their value-adding activities into a pre-forgetting exercise. So I think this idea of drip learning and really making it's just like spraying a fire hose to irrigate a field versus subterranean drip watering. That's the more scientific, precise way of doing things, and it's finally coming into the space of training people. The other topic that we talked about was really how do we start to drive higher performance once we've trained people? And that comes down to what we call coaching. Can you tell us a little bit about coaching and how Motion is evolving in your view of coaching?
Well, Motion traditionally has had, I would call it a player coach model. Our branch managers typically held large territories and didn't have time to do a lot of coaching on their own. So our training has really reinforced the fact that our coaches need to really spend their time coaching and make sure that their team is delivering value to the customers in new ways. We're really changing from a transactional type sales force to one that's trying to deliver value at a higher level and be a true partner to our customers. The digital piece has taken that transactional piece away from the sales team, and it really allows for a lot more time to be a true partner to our customers. But you need a coach. You need a frontline sales manager that's actually going to coach the team. And we had some great coaches. We still do have great coaches, but we do have some gaps. And it's just we didn't have a process that was consistent, that was repeatable. We had a lot of random acts of excellence across Motion, which we still do. We're working through that. It's a big organization, and transforming that sales team is going to take some time, but we're well on our way.
One of the things that's interesting is seeing how technology is starting to drive productivity gains with sales teams. And during COVID, a lot of sellers were forced, not by choice, but by circumstance, to change how they engage with their customers. And one of the things that we see is more and more customer engagement coming through virtual selling platforms like Teams or Zoom and those types of technologies. I think one of the great benefits that will emerge from this COVID period is really that our sellers learn how to master technology in ways that increase productivity for the seller and also increase customer satisfaction. We see more and more buyers reporting that they prefer being able to have shorter meetings virtually, being able to talk to more partners, to be able to have, let's say, larger buying committees of people who need to be involved in decisions. It's easier to coordinate those people when they don't have to all be in the same physical place. But from a seller's perspective and from a distributor's perspective, I think what virtual selling does is it unlocks the advantages of specialization. Now our sellers don't have to be geographically constrained to a patch of dirt where they are generalists across all the accounts in that geography. They can really start to specialize in verticals, accumulate more knowledge, and add more value for their customers. Can you talk a little bit about specialization and some of Motion's thoughts there?
Yeah, Motion has, we went through a pretty large retirement event in 2020. And we had a lot of talent retire that had a lot of years of experience. So right as we're going through this digital transformation with COVID, we also had some retirement opportunities for people. And what we've done is, the collaboration opportunities for the best person that knows steel mills, for instance, that person may reside in one part of the country, and where we had gaps in other places today, that person can call in every steel mill in the country virtually and be a part of the solutions if they're not directly calling on them. So as the young people come into the organization, they can collaborate with the experienced, tenured folks in a virtual setting. And so it's collaboration internally as we prepare for our conversations with customers. And then when you're going to those quarterly business reviews, everybody can join a virtual conference. It's really expensive to have a large group join an in-person conference. And so we're getting better and better. I mean, as we move to more digital sales opportunities, we've decided we're going to be great at it. We're not going to just, figure out how to survive in virtual sales calls and on a Zoom or Teams call. We're going to be good at it. And the travel reduction we've had in our corporate accounts team has been significant. Most of our quarterly business reviews are virtual, and the executives can all take place in a lot of virtual calls and really deliver that high touch customer experience where you've got the top leaders of the company right there listening to the customer firsthand of what their needs are. And then we're getting back to more and more in-person business reviews at least once a year, but it's not every review. And I don't think it's going to go back to that. The key thing is to be good at it so that it's entertaining for the customer to be a part of that kind of a sales call, and also concise. I mean, somebody sitting in front of Zoom calls for 8 hours a day it's really untenable. So the key thing is on those virtual sales calls to be concise, make sure that everything that can be done up front is prepared and done up front, and that they have the proper pre-reading if they want to, and a post engagement of this is what the open items are from this meeting. But we're still coaching our teams to get, if you had a 1 hour sales meeting, it should be about a 15-minute Zoom call. So we're still coaching our teams as to how to make sure that it's not a negative experience for our customers to be in a virtual sales environment.
Well, I think one of the things that's exciting about these technologies as they keep evolving is the ability to really shorten the amount of time that's required in a lot of tedious activities and reduce the amount of repetition. A lot of sellers have to constantly repeat themselves over and over and over again, saying more or less the same things. And what a lot of these new technologies, such as a digital solution room, for example, can do is allow the seller to be able to really increase their use of common assets and be able to stop saying the same things over and over again. Drop that introduction into the meeting invite before everybody on the call comes in. Give them a little bit of extra insight and for different personas on the buying committee after the call. So they've got the resources, but not everybody on the call has to look at everybody else's content. And as we start to really understand these technologies, I think we're going to see a lot more productivity. Our sellers are able to spend more of their time on value-adding activities and less time on repetition and even travel and things like that. How prepared do you think most sellers are today for this shift towards virtual selling?
I think it's a pretty mixed bag, like everything else with sellers. You have your early adopters, you have your high performers, and they're going to optimize everything. And those individuals, they just will, no matter what challenge you throw in front of them, they are going to figure out how to be good at it. And then you have people that are a little bit more reluctant to change, or different places in their lives or careers. So I think that with Motion, we're still moving that along. I think the telephone call type interaction with customers has definitely shrunk with all sellers. There's a lot of text message communication going on. I think that the corporate accounts team is certainly ahead of that curve versus our day-to-day sellers, but it's also a different sales conversation. They're looking at rotating equipment, and they're inside of plants having conversations. And even though you can send video and do different things throughout COVID, Motion sales team was in the back of plants that were all essential, critical pieces of our economy, and also our infrastructure of how do we get food on everybody's plate? How do we keep the energy, the lights on? Motion's in the back of all of those facilities. So we still have a lot of that person-to-person piece going, but that balance of when do you use this sales technique versus when is it you have to be in person? That, I think, is something that all sales teams are still kind of getting their arms around. And, give us 5 more years, I think that, or maybe 3 more years, all the sales teams, it's just going to be second nature. This is ingrained. I don't think we're going back to an entire person-to-person sales, belly-to-belly sales process. We're definitely going to be in a hybrid at some point, but it is nice to see customers in person. It is. I mean, there is a relationship engagement in person that I don't think will ever be replaced. It just can be augmented with technology in a much more efficient way for both parties.
So isn't really the big prize here from the sales transformation? It's a lot of hard work, and we're having to roll up our sleeves and deal with one of the most powerful constituencies within a distributor. But the big prize really is that when we do it successfully, it becomes better to be our customer, harder to be our competitor, better to be our shareholder.
And better to be our salesperson, because it's a win for them as well. They should have an increase in income and productivity, and it should be good for our salespeople as well. That it does start with the customer, but our associates and our talented team are super important to our future, and it's got to be good for them too.
That's right. And I think, really this is about taking the salesperson much more seriously. It's about thinking of them as a critical resource in the customer experience, understanding the business outcomes they drive for their customers when they do the job well, and being willing to invest in talent selection, talent development, coaching, all of the downstream technologies that we look for with adoption, like CRM or like learning platforms and things like that. Those are all technologies that are fundamentally investing in the success of sellers, which I think is elevating the professionalism of the field as well.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to thank you, James. This has been a great conversation, and you can tell that Motion takes this very seriously with the resources and the leadership that have been dedicated to it. And just want to thank everyone for listening in today. And thanks, James.
Thank you, David. Appreciate our partnership with Sparks IQ.